using wildcards with an MQTT broker and your unified namespace, and a couple other things. Take 0. All right, so Kutsai Mana Teresa, who is a developer advocate at HiveMQ, which makes an MQTT broker. They're based in Germany. You guys should know Kutsai from IIoT.tv or Industry 40 TV. He posted a post today, which is the 11 best practices for designing MQTT message topics. I commented on the LinkedIn post. If you want to check it out, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I'm going to go over the 11 things that he said for best practices. I want to provide some clarification. In general, I love Kutsai's posts, so this is in no way meant to be like critical of him. But I want to make sure there's some clarification here, because if you read this, I don't agree with all these best practices. In fact, if you're leveraging MQTT for your IoT protocol for building your unified namespace, and you followed these best practices, you probably wouldn't end up with the best outcomes. You certainly wouldn't be able to maximize the benefits of using MQTT in your infrastructure. So with that, let's just get into it. All right, so the post is over here on the left, and then I'm actually going to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So he says the 11 best practices for designing MQTT message topics. Let me zoom in here a little bit more. Number 1, avoid using a leading forward hash. Agreed. So let me do a little green. So I totally agree with that one. Avoid using a leading forward hash. Do not agree with spaces in the MQTT topics. People use camel case. People use underscores. I don't have any problem using spaces in MQTT topics, because we're going to strip out and standardize using string manipulation later on, and we're going to turn text. We're actually going to join text together. So if there's spaces in there, I think it's much more important. We actually use spaces all the time in our brokers, in our infrastructure, and the reason why is, remember, you are structuring an MQTT topical namespace using a semantic hierarchy, and what that means is that the semantic, it is easily read. That is, a layperson can read it and understand it like a file share. Okay, so that's why we don't use unique identifiers like, we don't use an ID from a column in a database as a topical namespace, because that only means something to someone who can reference that ID to the description inside the SQL table. So we structure a unified namespace in the way that what we can do is we can take someone who needs data, we can tell them how our namespace was built, and we can point them to our broker, our broker namespace, and we can ask them, and they can understand it. And I'm going to show you how we do that here internally with 2 of my companies. Okay. Number 2, keep MQTT topics short and concise. Totally agree. That's a good one. All right. Use ASCII characters only. Let's say I'm 50-50 on that one. Embed a unique identifier or client ID in the topic. I would not. I disagree there. What I would say is that you want. So the topic is. This is an example of a topic. Okay. So this is an example of a topic. But the actual fully qualified topic would be this: Intellic /operations /daily summary /approved by day DS. And that basically means that this is the approved hours that were billed to a client by day as a data set. Okay, that's what that means. The topic is this. Okay, this is the topic. This is the fully qualified topic. Okay. Fully qualified topic, by the way, is what you subscribe to. Okay. So I would say embed a unique identifier. Generally, the unique identifier is in the semantic hierarchy, but there can also be you do not have to always embed a unique identifier. The fully qualified topical namespace, the fully qualified path, that is the unique identifier. Okay. Avoid wildcard descriptions. I absolutely disagree with this one. You absolutely need to use wildcard subscriptions. I'm gonna come back to this and I'm gonna show you why. Okay, the whole purpose of this video. Create topic structures that allow for future expansion. Yep, 100%. In fact, we do this all the time. For example, under open projects, if what I wanted to do was build a function in addition to the open project task status or the open project function, let's say I may wanted under open projects, I may want to create a function which is open projects with fewer than 30 days left on the runway. Then I could create a sub open projects, which would be closing soon or limited hours, whatever that function we would decide as a team before we built it. Okay. Avoid generic topics, be more specific. I would say agreed. The fully qualified topical name should mean something. Okay. So it should be when I go, if I know that if I'm looking at Intellic operations, open projects, open project task status, I know that I am looking at all of the open projects for the company and its task status for the operations group at Intellic Integration. Okay, that is semantic hierarchy. It makes sense. Keep detailed documentation of your MQTT topics. Disagree. Okay, I'm going to show you an example here. You need to keep detailed documentation of your red MQTT namespaces. For example, if you look at any of my companies, I have an incorporation topic underneath the company name. I also have an executive function underneath the Intellic name, and I have an operations function. These are red. So what we have here is we have documentation for executive, incorporation, and operations. But for example, under Dallas, for example, under Intellic is unique to Intellic because that's where the corporate headquarters are. Or, for example, if you look at under the open projects topical namespace, active tasks and hours remaining, that is not a red function. It is actually blue. It was developed by a citizen developer and actually goes on a dashboard. Okay. Same thing with the daily summary. Daily summary is a report. Okay, and it's a daily summary report that is made up of the time entries from yesterday as a data set, the scorecard by day data set. So that's actually it's actually a visualization that sits on a screen, and it's approved by day data set, and that is like a box that's on the visualization for the scorecard. Okay, that is a blue functional topic. So the documentation for this lives inside the description. Okay, and what I've done is I've dropped out the part of the topic that explains how it's actually built. Okay, all right, so keep detail. This is a 50-51. You want to keep detailed documentation of your red MQTT topics. Regularly review and optimize your topic structure. Agreed 100%, especially the red stuff. And avoid confidential information and topic names. Totally agree. Okay, this one I'm 50-50 on. I don't know what to put there. All right, let's go to wildcard. Let me start by saying this. Wildcard subscriptions are critically important for getting the most out of your unified namespace. So I'm gonna zoom out of here, zoom out just a hair, okay? So we can look at, so this is an internal broker, okay? This is an internal broker that we use at Intellic, okay? And hopefully you can see that. So we have 4.0 solutions. I think I'm going to have to zoom in. All right, so we have the 4.0 solutions namespace, okay? So I have not opened this all the way up, okay? But what I have are 4.0 solutions, the IIoT.University namespace. We have under that our key performance indicators and our reports. And then we have our media namespace. And under that, we have YouTube. And actually, there's a LinkedIn namespace. Underneath that, there's a LinkedIn and there's a Discord namespace that I kept out of this. I'm not subscribing to them. And then basically under key performance indicators We have our business logic runs, populates all of the KPIs, and those KPIs go to the data lake, they get ingested into Grafana for dashboards. They're used all over the organization. I mean, if you look at our organization, if you look at the revenue that these two companies that work very closely together do, we do the revenue of a company that is 4 or 5 times our size. And if you wonder how we do that, and how we do our projects as quickly as we do, and how we do as many projects as we actually do and touch so many clients, it's because we are a fully digital company. I mean, literally every single operational element of 4.0 Solutions is automated completely through the entire workflow, from the lead all the way through terminating someone's subscription once they're all done, with their education. Okay. Everything is automated. You have human beings interoperating in there, but it's all automated. And all of that is done through our MQTT broker. So all the various clients, so whether we have a Python script that's doing some type of automation, or whether we're using the artificial intelligence plugins in our CRM that are doing our forecasts 90 days out and all that kind of stuff, all of it is automated through the unified namespace. So if you look at, we don't have a huge support staff of 10 people just moving data around. I mean, we don't have any of that. We literally built an infrastructure that does all of it. Okay. So at 4.0 Solutions, this is the topical namespace. So there's a couple of in there that I left out, but basically you have IoTU, you have the media, you have key performance indicators, and then, we have only 3 reports that we use at IoTU. What is the total sales by day? So that in a sale could be somebody signed up for, a free, the IoT mini course. It could be anything. What we're looking for is we're trying to manage. We have 13,000 people in IoT University. How do you manage? If you were to try to do that manually, you would never know who's looking at what, which videos actually get watched, which ones don't. Do we have the right number of people in mentorship versus mastermind? Like all that stuff, every single event, every single student, every single product, every single subscription, literally everything is inside that green box. So let's say that I want to take a data point and I want to correlate sales by day with, our YouTube statistics. Okay. Then all I have to do is create a wildcard where I go 40 sol / IIoTU / reports. And then I'm going to go wildcard so that I get all 3, because I'm not going to make the assumption I only need this data set. And I am going to subscribe to 40 sol / media / YouTube / hashtag. Okay. I think what Kutsai is saying in here is that he, avoid using wildcards to subscribe to the entire namespace. I also disagree with that. In fact, my response, do not be afraid of wildcard subscriptions. They're critical under the MQTT spec until the MQTT spec contains a mechanism for querying the namespace. Poorly designed brokers do not handle wildcard subscriptions well. Brokers that are horizontally scalable under the hood do. No matter which broker one is using, architects should design horizontal scale into their broker infrastructure. Wildcard subscriptions are critical for nodes to maximize the value of UNS. Keep detailed documentation of red topical namespaces, the standardized ones, but ad hoc namespaces, non-standardized blue, should contain a subtopic with the documentation from the citizen developer who created it. All right. Let's move over to the Intellic namespace, okay, which is obviously much, much bigger. So same thing here. And we do this a lot. I mean, we're using a ton of wildcard subscriptions, especially in the machine learning applications that we're using. So like we do things like, at Intellic Integration, which is our integration company, we do things like predict whether we're going to be on schedule, we're going to be ahead of schedule, we're going to be late. We predict whether we're going to be over or under budget. We're doing simple linear regression on our data. We are predicting burnout on engineers based on the number of hours that they're billing, and we're correlating that to declines in work performance in the past. We are automating invoice triggers. We are automating the aging report on accounts receivable. Like, all of that's done through this infrastructure, and the algorithms that are doing those predictions are all of the subscriptions to the data they need in the broker as that data changes, so that they can transact it into its warehouse, so that they have a table where they can segment all the data and normalize it and normalize the data and have it in full context. Is all done through the broker, and it's all done using Wildcard subscriptions. Now, the reason I'm showing you this broker is because I didn't have time to pull out a manufacturing broker and like sanitize a namespace. It would have been much more, and I have active access to this. But this is our internal broker namespace. And, with each of the topics, under open project task status, there's 39 topics there. What that means is there are 39 project tasks that are being done that are open right now. That is, tasks that need to be done on various projects that are open right now. And underneath that is all of the work that is being done on those tasks. So, for example, I could literally create a piece of business logic, put a node out here, which we do this all the time. We'll put a node out here, and that node we will say is going to subscribe to the open project task status. Okay, what we want to do is the bulk of the data we want is in here as it changes. So each time it changes, we basically put in a transaction. So I may end up with, 9 rows, 10 rows. The open project task status may change. Think about it. Those task statuses are only changing when an engineer is updating a task and putting in an entry and saying, I did this, here's the problem I ran into, whatever it is. We may want to throw a node out here, subscribe to the project task status, but the thing that we want to do is we may need the active task details. So what we would do is we would either explicitly, we would do 2 subscriptions here. Let's say what I want to do is I want to do a prediction on when all of our I want to create a parameter on an open project task status that is our predicted completion date of that task, not the scheduled, but the predicted. Obviously, we will create a task, it'll have a start time and an end time, but we want to predict based on progress when it will finish, okay? Well, in order for me to do that, I would create a functional namespace under open project task status, and it would be, or I would create a parameter that would go into the JSON. That's probably what I would do. I'd have a key, which we predicted and completion date, and then there would be a value, and I want to calculate that. Well, in order for me to do that, I have to have the data I need to do that algorithm. So if you look at the way most organizations do that, what they would do is they would use ETL in their backend, in their data stores, okay? And you'd have your data team create tables, and it's the reason it takes so fucking long, okay? So, but we don't do that. What we do is we give access to citizen developers who can create the data point that they want, and we give them instructions on how to put that data point back in there for other people to use, okay? So let's say what I want to do is I want to predict when a task is going to be finished. By the way, we don't do that right now. We predict when a project will complete, but we don't predict on the task basis. Maybe we will one day. Maybe there will be a need to do that. But I'm actually going to need 2 sets of data. I'm actually going to need active task details in addition to open project task status. And I may need active tasks and hours remaining. Okay. So what I'm going to do is almost certainly I'm going to set up a subscription to Intellic /operations /open projects /open project task status. And that's going to be a wildcard. And then I'm going to do this. And I will explicitly do active tasks and hours remaining. And then I would explicitly subscribe to active tasks details. And that's actually a list of JSONs. Right. So, but I've got a wildcard there. Why? Because I'm not going to explicitly subscribe to 39 topics. And if I subscribe to if I don't have that wildcard in there, then what I'm going to get is a no value for the topic open project test status. Okay. All right. So the point is wildcards are really, really important. And they are very important for these nodes out here. Okay. So while I like Kutsai's post, I wanted this to be an additional resource in addition to my response that I put on his actual on the actual LinkedIn post. All right. We'll put that link to his LinkedIn post down below. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.